The mural I chose for this project was called Settlement and Development, and it was by an African American artist known by the name Hale Woodruff. Hale, who is pictured here, was born in 1900 and lived till 1980, and he was an African American artist known for murals, paintings, and prints, and he sought to express his sense of heritage in abstract painting. He attended local segregated schools when he was younger, and he grew an interest in mural painting traditions of Mexico. Some of these traditions that were typically sought after in Mexico were visual arts, which followed the history of Mexico, moreover known as indigenous paintings. And these are just a few indigenous paintings that I found online. And indigenous paintings typically depicted the ruling class and showed religion. And they were a visual narrative of the history of Mexico and its culture. One thing that Hale did was he noted the parallels between Mexican art and that of African American culture after studying with Diego Rivera in 1936, which was prior to painting settlement and development. Also seen in his art was post-impressionism and cubism, which were used in his paintings for social advocacy after his return to the U.S. during the Great Depression in 1936. This six-panel mural is housed in the ORH in Los Angeles, which is the Office of Historic Resources. And this was built in 1949 by the first African-American architect west of the Mississippi River, and he was also the first African-American member of the American Institute of Architects and served on the first LA Planning Commission in 1920. Hale used this painting and mural to depict what the African American lifestyle was typically like during the 1850s to 1949. This is the mural itself, and it's a social realistic style mural, and it was meant to document the participation of African American settlers in the founding of California. And it showed an extensive range of color and expressive forms interwoven in overlapping triangular patterns and dramatic shapes, which goes back to the indigenous way of painting that he saw in Mexico after working with Diego. And it shows the complex history of Black life in California, meshed with a major Los Angeles cultural tradition. And this painting has less focus on the individual heroes, but it depicts gold miners, Boulder Dam construction workers, Pony Express. And it's really a dystopian take on the American dream. A few of the signs, although it's blurred out, say, "Let us own homes, open schools for our children, justice under the law." After Hale painted this picture, it was held at such high honor in the African American community just because African American themselves during 1850 to 1949 had been considered the working class and were suffering slavery and all the fights between anti-slavery and pro-slavery. And slaves at this time weren't viewed as citizens and they were treated unfairly. There were so many fights about it until the Emancipation Proclamation came, which claimed that all slaves were freed, that these slaves were working endless days and nights on jobs that humans shouldn't even be working, and they were freed until black codes occurred, which restricted their rights just as much as they had been as slaves. As I had said earlier, settlement and development was housed in the ORH in Los Angeles and actually took up an entire wall of the room it was in, but it worked with Exploration and Colonization by Charles Elston, who's pictured here. And Alston, as well, wanted to depict African American history in California from 1529 to 1949, and it portrays African Americans who played a significant role in California's early period after the arrival of the Europeans. And these two murals worked so well together because we have this mural right here that shows the earlier stages of what African Americans suffered, whether slavery or transitioning into the new lifestyle. But you as well have Hale's version, which is focusing more on the heroes themselves and the workers and what they're suffering through on a day-to-day basis. Personally, for me, I had chosen this piece just because it was different than the other murals I had looked at. Now, going into this project, I had my mindset that I was going to do a mural, and this mural just seemed to speak to me. Maybe it was the way that it actually had signs telling me what was going on during this time so that I could figure out how pained the African Americans were. But I think it also kind of was different than what I'm used to because I go to a school that isn't diverse at all. And after researching a lot about it, you're finding out that African Americans were completely diversified and taken away from everyday life because they were made to be slaves. And I think at this time, African Americans have actually started making names for themselves. And from what I've been able to figure out and see in my 16 years of life, is that we've really moved past this struggle of who's better than who and who should be working for who. And I think we've made a positive change so that we can try to work as one to better the United States. But even though it does still occur sometimes, I think that these small changes that have been made has made a drastic impact on African American lives towards how they're accepted into our society, which is so beneficial to learn at such a young age.